Next up, if you sprayed for thistles this past spring and summer, now is a great time to revisit those areas, as there's likely some remaining or new growth that has occurred. When it comes to tackling thistles in your pasture, you'll want to be sure you're keeping these prickly plants under control. Beyond the fact that these weeds may be considered unsightly to many landowners, some varieties are actually required to be removed by law.
Well, with thistles, the abundance of them that they can really take over in your pastures and rangeland is that it's going to be, first of all, it looks unsightly to a lot of people. Some of these, like the musk thistle, are noxious weeds, I believe, and it's required to control them if you do have them. And so it takes away from your pasture production of your good, desirable forage.
October and early November are prime time to get back into the fields and pastures to look for several types of biennial thistles that may have survived treatment or had any new growth that has begun to take hold.
And if we're dealing with the biennial thistles, and that would be mostly the musk thistle, but also there's some others such as the plumeless Scotch and bull thistles. They are biennials, and so they take 2 growing seasons to complete their cycle. In the first season, they'll begin from seed, of course, and then by fall here, they've grown to the stage where they're in what's called a rosette. So that's a flat circle of leaves on the surface of the ground. And at that time, they're very susceptible to the herbicides that we will use, and that takes care of them very well. And of course, these thistles, they produce a lot of seeds when they get away from us and, completely get through their full stage of development and flower, and they produce a lot of fluffy seeds that move around in the wind, and they're just very persistent pests. I did also want to mention that there is another perennial thistle called Canada thistle that we deal with as well in many areas. And this thistle has creeping underground rhizomes, so it really grows in pretty widespread patches. And fall is also another good time to work on that Canada thistle as well, because it oftentimes does have some new growth in the fall, or if that thistle had been mowed early this season, it will really respond and make a lot of fall growth as well. So a good time to spray that one also.
When it comes to treating any problematic areas, there are a number of products you could enlist to tackle these tenacious thistles. When utilizing these types of applications, the use of repeated treatment is paramount to killing off root systems and completing the task at hand.
Sure, there's a number of different herbicides that are quite effective on all of these thistles, things like Gunslinger, Milestone, Chaparral, Grassland, Stinger, Tordon 22K, all quite effective. And particularly, we want to make sure the temperatures are fairly warm when we're applying these, just because that does increase their effectiveness. And in the fall of the year, what we're really trying to accomplish is to get those herbicides taken in by the plant and taken down to the root system and kill that root system, so that effectiveness is much, much better than in the spring or summer. And it's just a good idea, and it's really just a continuous battle against most of these thistles, where we have to every year almost do some type of control on them. They do have a large bank of seed in the soil that each year, even though we may have looked like we did a pretty good job of controlling the thistles, there's going to be some seed around left in that soil that will germinate and come up the following year. So it's just really important to be vigilant, and it's almost needs to be an annual practice of doing some scouting and looking at these different problem sites where you have had thistles in the past.